I sat in the courtroom gripping my purse so tightly my knuckles turned white. Across the aisle, my ex-husband Trent smiled like he'd already won the lottery. His lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Mr. Holbrook, gestured dramatically toward a blown-up photo of my office mounted on an easel. The image showed my small workspace from 3 years ago, cluttered with files and sample products. "Your Honor," Holbrook said with practiced confidence, "this business exists because of my client's unwavering support. He sacrificed his own career advancement to enable Mrs. Halpern's entrepreneurial dreams." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat frozen, watching Trent nod solemnly as if he were some kind of martyr. His mother, Patricia, sat behind him in the gallery, already dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, even though nothing sad had been said yet. The whole performance made me nauseous. The judge, an older woman named Judge Carmichael with silver hair and reading glasses, looked down at the paperwork spread before her. Her eyebrows drew together in a frown that gave me the first flicker of hope I'd felt in months. "This is heartbreaking," Patricia whispered loudly enough for half the courtroom to hear. "After everything our family did for her, everything Trent sacrificed." The murmurs rippled through the gallery like a wave. I felt every eye land on me, measuring, judging, deciding I must be the villain in this story. A gold digger. A user. Someone who took advantage of a good man's generosity and now wanted to keep everything for herself. My lawyer, Amanda Torres, touched my arm gently. She was a small woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, but her presence radiated strength. She'd told me during our first meeting that she'd handled dozens of cases like mine. Women who built something from nothing, only to have their exes try to claim half when the relationship ended. "Stay calm," Amanda whispered. "Let them talk." Judge Carmichael looked up from the documents. "Mr. Holbrook, your client claims he was essentially a co-owner of Halpern Creative Solutions, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Holbrook replied smoothly. "A silent partner, but absolutely integral to its success." "Then I need Mr. Walsh to confirm something for the record." The room went silent. Judge Carmichael removed her reading glasses and looked directly at Trent. "Mr. Walsh, if you were indeed a co-owner or partner in this business, can you explain why your name doesn't appear on a single tax return filed by the company? Not on any contracts with clients? Not on the business loan applications? Not on the lease agreement for the office space?" The courtroom went so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Trent's confident smile faltered. He glanced at his lawyer, who shuffled through papers with suddenly less certainty. "Your Honor," Holbrook began, "my client's contribution was more of a supportive nature." "That wasn't my question," Judge Carmichael interrupted calmly. "I asked why his name appears nowhere on any legal or financial document related to this business if he was, as you claim, integral to its creation and operation." Trent cleared his throat. "Well, Lauren handled all the paperwork. I was more behind the scenes." "Behind the scenes doing what, specifically?" "Supporting her, emotionally, being there when she needed encouragement." Judge Carmichael made a note. The silence that followed felt like it would swallow me whole. Amanda squeezed my hand under the table. "My name is Lauren Halpern. I'm 38 years old, and I built my marketing agency from absolutely nothing. No family money, no business degree, just determination, late nights, and a refusal to give up, even when everyone around me said I was wasting my time. I started Halpern Creative Solutions 5 years ago in the spare bedroom of the apartment Trent and I rented. My entire office setup consisted of a second-hand laptop I bought on Craigslist for $300 and a folding chair that gave me back pain. My first client paid me $800 to redesign their restaurant menu. I remember staring at that check like it was a winning lottery ticket. Sitting in this courtroom, I felt terrified, but also strangely proud. Proud that I'd built something real despite everyone doubting me. Proud that I'd kept meticulous records. Proud that I'd trusted my gut when it told me not to add Trent's name to anything official, even when he made me feel guilty about it. My mind flashed back to one of our first big fights, back when the business was just starting to gain traction. "It's a cute little phase," Trent had said, barely looking up from his phone. "We were at his parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner. His father had asked about my work, and I'd excitedly explained a new client I'd just signed." "Phase?" I'd repeated, my enthusiasm deflating. You know what I mean, your freelance thing. It's nice that you have a hobby. His mother had laughed, that tinkling sound that always felt like broken glass. Oh, Trent, don't be mean. I think it's wonderful that Lauren keeps herself busy. Better than those women who just watch television all day. His father hadn't even acknowledged my response. The conversation moved on to Trent's job at the consulting firm, his upcoming promotion, his impressive salary. I sat there feeling invisible, my cute little phase dismissed like a child's lemonade stand. But I didn't quit. Every dismissive comment, every condescending laugh just made me more determined. Within 6 months, I had 5 regular clients. Within a year, I was making almost as much as Trent. By year 2, I was making more. That's when everything changed. The sabotage started small. Trent would schedule weekend trips during my biggest product launches. When I'd protest, he'd sigh dramatically and say, "I guess your work is more important than us spending time together." He picked fights the night before important client pitches. I'd stay up until 2 in the morning arguing about whose turn it was to do the dishes or why I'd forgotten to call his mother back. Then have to present a marketing strategy on 3 hours of sleep. At dinner parties, he'd interrupt my conversations about work. "Lauren thinks she's going to be the next big advertising mogul," he'd say with a laugh that wasn't quite joking. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to keep the lights on with my boring corporate job. People would laugh uncomfortably. I'd smile and change the subject, swallowing the humiliation. When potential clients called during dinner, he'd make loud comments in the background. "Tell them you're busy, you're always working." Then later, he'd complain that I wasn't bringing in enough money to justify ignoring him. Then, 18 months ago, his consulting firm downsized. Trent lost his job. The power shift happened overnight. Suddenly, my cute little phase became our household's only income. My freelance hobby was now paying our rent, buying our groceries, covering his car insurance. Trent acted supportive at first. He said he'd help with the business while job hunting. But within weeks, he started asking questions about my accounts. How much was in the business checking? How much profit did I make last month? Why was I keeping the money separate from our joint account? "It should be our money now," he said one evening, standing in the doorway of my home office. "I mean, we're married. What's yours is mine, right?" "The business account needs to stay separate for tax purposes," I explained. "But I'm transferring money to our joint account every month for household expenses." "That's not what I mean, Lauren. I should have access. I should be able to help manage it." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "If you want to be officially involved in the business, we can talk to my accountant about adding you to the LLC. There'd be paperwork, liability considerations." "Forget it," he snapped. "I don't want the headache of all that legal stuff." I pushed the issue one more time a few weeks later. "Trent, if you really want access to the business finances, you need to be officially added as a member of the LLC. My accountant can draw up the paperwork." "Why do you have to make everything so complicated?" he said, throwing his hands up. "I just want to be able to see where our money is going." "It's not complicated. It's legal protection. If you're going to have access to business accounts, you need to share the liability. That's how it works." "I don't want liability," he said flatly. "I don't want to be sued if some client decides to come after you. I just want to help manage the money." "That's not how business ownership works." "Then I guess you've made your choice," he said coldly. "You care more about protecting your precious company than about our marriage." I watched him walk away and something clicked in my brain. He wanted the benefits without any risk. He wanted control without responsibility. He wanted to be able to claim credit if things went well, but have zero exposure if anything went wrong. From that day forward, his resentment grew like mold in a dark corner. I discovered the cheating by accident. His laptop was open on the kitchen table, and a message notification popped up while I was walking past. The preview showed enough that I couldn't unsee it. Her name was Ashley. She was 24, a junior associate at his new job. The messages went back months, dozens of them, hundreds. What hurt wasn't even the affair itself, it was what he'd said about me. "My wife only cares about her brand. She's obsessed with being some big-shot CEO. I barely exist to her anymore." Another message. You actually listen to me. You make me feel important. Lauren just sees me as a paycheck now that she's making more money. I sat on the kitchen floor, reading message after message, watching my marriage disintegrate in blue and gray text bubbles. When Trent came home, I was still sitting there with his laptop open. He didn't apologize. He didn't beg. He blamed me. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to your husband instead of your client list, this wouldn't have happened. I filed for divorce the next week. Initially, Trent acted reasonable about the divorce. His lawyer sent over a settlement proposal that was generous but fair. He'd get half our savings, half the furniture, his car. I'd keep the business, he'd keep his retirement account. We'd split the security deposit from our apartment. I was ready to sign, ready to be done with the whole nightmare, ready to move forward. Then his mother got involved. That's not enough. Patricia told him during a phone call I overheard while packing up the apartment. She built that business during your marriage. You're entitled to half of it. You supported her. You sacrificed for her. Don't let her take advantage of you. Mom, I don't know. Trent Michael Walsh, you listen to me. That woman used our family. She used your stability, your health insurance, your reputation. Now she wants to walk away with everything while you get nothing? Absolutely not. I heard the change in his voice. The hardening. You're right. I deserve more. 2 days later, his lawyer sent an amended demand. Trent now wanted half the value of Halpern Creative Solutions. The amended filing claimed my agency was a marital asset that Trent had helped build through emotional support, business advice, and personal sacrifice. His lawyer argued that without Trent's encouragement and stability, I never would have had the freedom to start the business. I read the document 3 times, feeling sicker with each pass. It was a complete fantasy, a rewriting of history so blatant it felt like gaslighting on paper. But the worst part came when his parents submitted sworn affidavits supporting his claim. Both Patricia and his father, Gerald, signed statements describing Trent as the supportive partner behind the scenes who provided crucial business insight and sacrificed his own career advancement to enable his wife's entrepreneurial pursuits. Amanda warned me that family testimony, even if biased, could carry weight. Judges see bitter divorces all the time, she explained. Sometimes they split the difference just to be done with it. We need to be prepared to fight this hard. We requested a full hearing. Trent's side came loaded with what they called evidence. Watching Patricia perform on the witness stand was surreal. She wore a navy suit and pearl earrings, looking every bit the respectable suburban mother. Her voice trembled as she described how Trent had put his own dreams on hold to support my business. He spent countless evenings helping Lauren brainstorm, she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. He proofread her proposals. He encouraged her when she wanted to give up. My son has always been selfless, always putting others first. Gerald backed up every word. Trent could have taken a promotion that required relocation, he testified. But he turned it down because Lauren's business was just getting started. He sacrificed a 6-figure salary increase to stay here and support her. I wanted to scream. Trent had turned down that transfer because he was terrified of change. He'd cried about it for weeks, paralyzed by the decision. I was the one who'd finally told him it was okay to stay, that we'd figure things out. But in their version, he was the noble husband sacrificing everything for his ungrateful wife. Mr. Holbrook presented photographs as evidence. The photos showed Trent in my early office space, the one I'd rented when the business outgrew our spare bedroom. In one picture, he was sitting at my desk. In another, he was standing by the window holding a coffee cup. In a third, he appeared to be looking at something on my computer screen. As you can see, Your Honor, Holbrook said smoothly, Mr. Walsh was clearly involved in the day-to-day operations of the business. These aren't photos of someone occasionally visiting his wife at work. This is someone who is an integral part of the company's foundation. The photos looked damning. I had to admit that. If you didn't know the context, you'd think Trent was my business partner. But I remembered exactly when those pictures were taken and why. Trent had shown up at my office unannounced that day, interrupting a call with a potential client. I'd waved him toward the desk while I finished the conversation. That's when his mother snapped the first photo through the window. proud of her son, visiting his hard-working wife. What the photos didn't show was the 20-minute lecture he gave me after I hung up. The furniture was cheap and unprofessional. The location was too far from downtown. I was charging too little for my services. Did I realize how much more I could make if I just listened to his advice? "You're never going to be taken seriously in this space," he'd said, gesturing around my small office like it disgusted him. "You need to project success, Lauren. Fake it until you make it." "I'm building slowly and sustainably," I'd replied. "I don't want to overextend myself." "That's your problem. You think too small. You'll always be small time with that attitude." He'd left me feeling deflated and incompetent. That night, I'd cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. But the next morning, I'd landed my biggest client yet, a contract worth $20,000. I never told Trent about it until the deposit cleared. The legal battle dragged on for 8 months. 8 months of depositions, document requests, and sleepless nights. I lost 12 pounds from stress. My hair started falling out in the shower. Some mornings, I could barely get out of bed. Amanda kept reassuring me that we had a strong case, but I couldn't shake the fear that the court might believe confidence over truth. Trent's family had money for good lawyers. They presented a unified, convincing story. Who was I? Just a woman trying to protect what she'd built, which could easily look like selfishness to an outside observer. My business started suffering. I couldn't focus on client work when I was drowning in legal paperwork. I missed deadlines. I lost 2 major accounts. My staff of 3 started asking worried questions about the company's stability. "Maybe you should just settle," my best friend Kendra suggested over coffee one afternoon. "Give him something to make this go away. Your health is worth more than the money." But it wasn't about money. It was about truth. It was about not letting him rewrite history to benefit himself. Finally, Amanda called me into her office. "It's time to stop playing defense," she said. We spent 2 weeks pulling together every piece of evidence we could find. Emails where Trent had mocked my work, text messages where he'd called my business a waste of time, bank statements showing I'd never deposited his money into company accounts. But the real treasure was in my old phone backups, messages I'd forgotten about, conversations that painted a very different picture than the one Trent's family was selling. "Look at this," Amanda said, pointing to an email chain from 3 years ago. Trent had forwarded my business plan to his father with the subject line, "Lauren's latest fantasy." In the email he'd written, "Dad, she wants to quit her steady job to do this full time. I told her it's financial suicide, but she won't listen. Can you talk some sense into her?" Gerald's response, "Women get these ideas sometimes. Be patient. She'll realize it's too hard and go back to normal work." We found dozens of similar exchanges. Trent complaining about my business, his family dismissing it, everyone treating my company like a phase I'd eventually outgrow. But then we found something even worse. The voicemail was 2 years old, left by Patricia on Trent's phone. He'd upgraded devices and forgotten about it, but the cloud backup preserved everything. Amanda played it in her office, and we both sat in stunned silence listening to Patricia's voice. "Trent, honey, it's Mom. I've been thinking about your situation with Lauren's little company. You need to protect yourself, sweetie. She's making good money now, and if anything happens to your marriage, you could end up with nothing. You need to get your name on that business somehow. Tell her you want to be partners. Tell her it's about trust. I don't care what you say, but you need to be on the paperwork. She's stupid not to put you on it anyway, considering how much you've helped her. Call me back." We listened to it 3 times. There it was, preserved in Patricia's own voice. The admission that Trent had never actually been involved. The acknowledgement that he needed to get his name added. The proof that this entire claim was a calculated grab for assets he had no right to. "This changes everything," Amanda said quietly. "This ends it." We prepared for the final hearing with renewed confidence. The courtroom felt different on the final day. Maybe it was my imagination, but the energy seemed charged. Trent sat with his lawyer and parents, still wearing that confident smile. But I noticed his leg bouncing under the table, a nervous tell he'd never been able to control. Mr. Holbrook opened with another strong performance, reiterating all the claims about Trent's essential support and sacrifice. Patricia cried on cue. Gerald nodded solemnly at all the right moments. Your Honor, Holbrook concluded, my client isn't asking for charity. He's asking for what he rightfully helped build. A marriage is a partnership, and the fruits of that partnership should be shared equally. It was a good speech. I'd give him that. Judge Carmichael looked at Trent. Mr. Walsh, I'm going to ask you that question one more time, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. If you were truly a co-founder of this business, Judge Carmichael said slowly, if you were as integral to its creation and success as you claim, why did you take zero financial risk? Why did you refuse to be added to the LLC when your wife offered? Why does your name appear on absolutely nothing related to this company? Trent opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his lawyer. Your Honor, Holbrook began. I'm asking Mr. Walsh, the judge interrupted. I was being supportive, Trent stammered. I didn't need my name on everything to be involved. But you did need your name on everything to claim ownership now, in divorce proceedings, Judge Carmichael observed. Interesting timing. Amanda stood. Your Honor, the defense would like to enter Exhibit 47 into evidence. She played the voicemail. Patricia's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear and damning. You need to get your name on that business somehow. Tell her you want to be partners. Tell her it's about trust. She's stupid not to put you on it anyway. I watched the blood drain from Trent's face. When Patricia gasped audibly, Gerald looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Even Mr. Holbrook seemed stunned, shuffling papers as if hoping to find something, anything, that could salvage the situation. The courtroom dynamic shifted in real time. The murmurs from the gallery took on a different tone. Judge Carmichael's expression hardened. Mrs. Walsh, the judge said, looking at Patricia, you testified under oath that your son was a supportive partner who genuinely contributed to this business. Yet this voicemail suggests a calculated attempt to claim ownership of something he had no actual part in building. Do you care to revise your testimony? Patricia couldn't speak. She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. But this time they seemed real. Amanda presented email after email, text after text, a mountain of evidence showing Trent's actual attitude toward my business. The dismissiveness, the mockery, the active sabotage. Your Honor, Amanda said calmly, Mr. Walsh didn't support this business. He tolerated it when it was small and tried to control it when it became profitable. That's not partnership. That's opportunism. Judge Carmichael made several notes. Then she looked up. I've reviewed all the evidence presented by both parties, Judge Carmichael began. I've heard testimony from family members, reviewed financial documents, and examined the timeline of this business's creation and growth. The facts are clear. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. Halpern Creative Solutions was founded, financed, and operated entirely by Mrs. Halpern. Mr. Walsh's name appears on no founding documents, no tax returns, no business loans, no client contracts, and no operational paperwork of any kind. The evidence shows he actively discouraged this venture and refused to accept any legal or financial responsibility for it when given the opportunity. She paused, looking directly at Trent. His claim that he was an integral partner is not supported by documentation, and is in fact contradicted by his own family's recorded statements. This appears to be an attempt to claim assets he has no legitimate right to. Therefore, I rule that Halpern Creative Solutions is the separate property of Lauren Halpern. Mr. Walsh has no ownership stake and is entitled to no portion of its value. Furthermore, Judge Carmichael continued, given the frivolous nature of this claim and the evidence of deceptive testimony, I'm ordering Mr. Walsh to pay 40% of Mrs. Halpern's legal fees incurred in defending against this action. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that felt like thunder. Patricia stood up so fast her chair tipped backward. This is ridiculous, he supported her. Mrs. Walsh, you will sit down, Judge Carmichael said firmly. Court is adjourned. I watched them gather their things in furious silence. Patricia's face was red and blotchy. Gerald couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Trent stared at the table, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. They walked past me without a word, but I felt Patricia's hate in the air like static electricity. In the hallway outside the courtroom, I heard her voice rising in anger, blaming everyone but themselves. Trent never looked back. Amanda squeezed my shoulder. Go home, she said gently. It's over. The first few weeks after the judgment felt surreal. I kept waiting for another legal filing, another demand, another fight. But nothing came. The silence was almost louder than the conflict had been. I moved into a new apartment, a space that was completely mine. No shared furniture, no memories attached to every corner. I bought a couch I actually liked instead of the one Trent had insisted on. I hung artwork that made me happy instead of trying to impress his parents. Work slowly stabilized. I gave my staff raises I should have given them months earlier. I took on new clients with renewed energy. The business that had nearly been torn apart in court proceedings started to heal and grow stronger. I started therapy to process everything that had happened. To understand how I'd let someone make me feel so small. To learn how to trust my own judgment again. Some nights, I still woke up anxious, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios. But those nights became less frequent. The knot in my stomach gradually loosened. Life got quiet, in the best possible way. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits and pieces about Trent's life after the divorce. He bounced between jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 8 months. His relationship with Ashley imploded within weeks of our divorce being finalized. Apparently, she thought she was dating a successful businessman, not a man crashing on his parents' couch while job hunting. He dated frantically, according to Kendra, who still followed his social media. A new woman every few months, each relationship announced with grand romantic gestures that fizzled out quickly. Meanwhile, I grew Halpern Creative Solutions into something even bigger than I'd imagined. During those early days in our spare bedroom, I hired more staff, rented a proper office downtown, won industry awards, built a reputation based on actual merit, not smoke and mirrors. I dated occasionally, but mostly I focused on myself. On building a life I was proud of. On surrounding myself with people who celebrated my success instead of resenting it. Then, 18 months after the court case ended, an email appeared in my inbox that made me freeze. The sender was named Olivia. The subject line read, "Question about Trent Walsh." My finger hovered over the delete button. I didn't want any part of Trent's drama anymore. But curiosity won. "Ms. Halpern," the email began, "I hope this doesn't come across as inappropriate. My name is Olivia, and I'm currently engaged to Trent Walsh. I was doing some research online and came across court documents from your divorce. I read about his attempt to claim half your business." My stomach dropped. "I own a small bakery," she continued. "Trent has been very interested in my business lately, asking about profits and suggesting we merge our finances before the wedding. He says it's about trust. Something about your court case made me uncomfortable, so I looked deeper. I found your business website and decided to reach out directly. I guess what I'm asking is, how did you know to protect yourself? How did you get out before it was too late?" I stared at the email for a long time. Then I typed a response, telling her everything. The dismissiveness, the sabotage, the voicemail, the court case. I told her about keeping meticulous records and trusting her instincts when something felt wrong. I hit send and sat back in my chair. That's when I realized something profound. My greatest revenge wasn't winning in court, though that felt good. It wasn't watching Trent's reputation quietly unravel, though I wouldn't pretend that didn't provide some satisfaction. My greatest revenge was surviving, thriving, building something real that no one could take from me, and leaving a trail of truth behind me so clear that even a stranger could follow it to safety. 3 days later, Olivia emailed back with 2 words, "Wedding canceled." I smiled and got back to work.